haters, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo están? Bienvenidos nuevamente aquí al canal, conmigo su host El Diablo. Les doy la bienvenida nuevamente a su canal de El Hater. En esta ocasión, un nuevo segmento de conversaciones desde el inframundo, y tengo aquí el gran honor de tener como invitado a una de las grandes figuras del metal mundial, y sobre todo en lo que se refiere a doom metal. Me refiero más que nada a Hamish Glencross, quien es el guitarrista principal y la principal voz de la banda Godthrymm, que es oriunda de Inglaterra en el Reino Unido, esta gran banda de epic doom metal, que acaban de lanzar el día 18 de agosto su más reciente producción titulada Distortions a través del sello Profound Lord Records. Ya hicimos una reseña del trabajo, voy a dejar los links por aquí para que puedan checarla. Hamish, thanks a lot for being here. I'm a great fan of yours, and welcome to El Hater, to the segment Conversations from the Underground. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for giving the opportunity to talk about the band, the music, and the album. I'm feeling very good, very positive, loving the reactions that the album's been getting so far. So loving being able to talk about the album. We put so much work and effort into it. It's actually great being able to share it with people now.
Yeah, man, because your sophomore album with Godthrymm is such a delight. I mean, the first time I heard it, I was like floating. All the melodies, the riffs are so heavy, the lyrics are beautiful. It's so dark, but at the same time, it's so luminous. It's beautiful. Congratulations for this amazing work.
Thank you so very much. I'm glad you've picked up on how we do want some light shining through this time round, because yes, there is some quite dark and depressive music and themes in there as well, but ultimately what a lot of the lyrical themes are trying to do is to kind of acknowledge that grief and hardship is part of our time and our life, but hopefully we can take it and grow from that and live with our scars, live with our experiences, and grow and develop from that. And that is a theme that crops up a few times throughout the album.
Yeah, certainly human condition, merely human condition.
Absolutely. And so musically, we wanted to go a bit kind of more varied than what we'd maybe done on the previous album. So a lot more use of harmony, a lot more layered instrumentation. And then, of course, the addition of the keyboards and, a greater focus on Catherine's vocals as well. Makes for a very, to my mind, a very complete album that really covers a wide spectrum of what makes us who we are. And now being able to share that with people, hopefully there's something that we can connect with.
Yeah, I am quite sure that many people will connect with what you have done in this album. And man, if you don't mind, let's start with this. I got my first question for you is this. At what age did you get your first tattoo? Do you still have it? And if you do, what does it mean for you at this stage of your life?
Wow. So my first tattoo I got when I was 18 years old. It was at Blackpool Beach. Me and Catherine had gone to Blackpool for the day, and I just really wanted a tattoo, and we went to a tattooist. We'd been having a couple of drinks as well, and I didn't really think much of it at the time, but thankfully I'd accidentally gone to a good tattoo artist who actually taught me a couple of valuable lessons whilst I was there. I sat down, I'd picked something just from the wall, and whilst I sat down to have it done, he then asked me, "What's my name? Have you seen my work?" And I was like, "I don't know," and "No, I haven't." And he said, "Right, this is very, very important.
Yeah.
You want to commit something to your skin for life, then you need to know who is tattooing you." And so that really stuck with me. And he did a perfectly fine piece of work. There's still quite a bit of it in the middle here, and it's a bit scarred, a bit faded, and then over the years, every time I'd be getting some new piece of tattoo work done, it's been by people that I've certainly known and whose work I've certainly seen. So it was it was a good necessary education. So
totally.
Yeah. Important. You want to get tattooed done, then really be careful and consider it.
Yeah, man, you will end up with something that you will regret.
Yeah, definitely. I don't want that.
Yeah, very thoughtful of him to tell you this kind of stuff. Most of them, it's just fast money. Yeah, I'll do whatever you want.
Yeah. So it was me just as a young teenager. Then I listened, I paid attention. It didn't, as you're saying it, I felt like I felt I was being a bit rash, just rushing into it, and I was lucky that bumped into him that day.
Yeah, very lucky, man. Thanks for that answer. Very honest, very true. We can. I think we most of us who have tattoos can relate to that answer.
Oh yeah, there's a couple of things I'd maybe got over time where I was just so keen to have tattoos that I just got some stuff done, and then later when I'm trying to add more to it, it was kind of like piecing together lots of little pieces. When in truth, I might have just gone straight to something big in the first instance. Tattoos don't come with erasers.
Yeah, totally, man.
Yeah.
The next question I got for you is this one. Doom metal in all of its variants is one of the most, if not the most, beautiful and sincere subgenres of metal. Do you remember which song or album was the one that made you fall in love with this kind of sound and its musical structure?
So I think there's a couple of layers to this particular answer, because one of the very first albums I ever heard of any kind of rock and metal music was Paranoid by Black Sabbath. After my father had given me a copy of that album when I was getting into the music. At first, when I was discovering rock and metal, I was listening to, I listened to Girls' School and Michael Schenker Group and Iron Maiden. And then my dad gave me a copy of Paranoid by Black Sabbath. And on that album, you've got slow, doomy sounding riffs and things. And, you can argue that where the birth of kind of doom came from, and it was certainly my first experience of hearing that kind of sound. And Electric Funeral and Hand of Doom, it was heavy, powerful stuff, and
the so-called proto doom.
Absolutely, yeah. And then a bit later after that, then geographical convenience, I lived on the same street as Tuds, the drummer in Paradise Lost. And so we'd been at school, at the same school together as well. And obviously they were a little bit older than me. And when they started off, then hearing them, and particularly then the Gothic album, when Greg was really coming into the style of the chilling, haunting leads, and I was just thought, wow, this is just sounded completely different again, and just like really dark, eerie, and miserable. And so I found that really exciting, really inspiring. And then from that, then was able to get introduced to other things like kind of Candlemass, and then just immediately loving it and wanting to get more and more involved in that side. So I would say there was a couple of albums that were certainly quite inspirational in pushing me towards the kind of doom genre, and it would be those two. Yeah,
man, we got that thing in common, because it's metal that in that time it wasn't metal, it wasn't called like that, but the heaviness, the structure, the hunger for being dark, gloomy, kind of depressive, but most of all, very honest, very pure of heart and of body also. It's one of the things that I am a doom metal fan. This is my favorite subgenre. And Black Sabbath, Paradise Lost, My Dying Bride are one of my inspirations. And all the things that they are projecting, that you are projecting in your music, it's very easy to feel, to be empathetic with those feelings and that kind of ideas of reality that we all go through in one stage of our lives. It's just feels very natural.
Yeah, and certainly though when first hearing Gothic and also My Dying Bride towards the Sinister demo, at that point, because of course the vocal style was so low and so guttural, the actual kind of lyrics and meanings kind of came afterwards. I would come and read the lyric sheets quite after the event. The first initial thing picking up on was the music and the sound of it, and as I say, the atmosphere it kind of created, and then the lyrics as well. Then finding that this is very deep stuff, and so always drawn to that kind of sound and template. I love a wide range of different styles of metal and music as well, but certainly when it comes to my own satisfaction and kind of creative muse, it falls into that world.
Yeah, man, completely agree. Hamish, the next question I got for you is, which do you think are the main factors that make the UK such a fertile ground for melancholic art?
So many times we say, in the past, there's a certain inspiration in the landscape, certainly around us in Yorkshire. There's a backdrop of very kind of beautiful rolling hills and kind of countryside, but then it could be punctuated by, industrial buildings and, factories and mills and things, which sometimes can be quite oppressive. Sometimes they could be quite beautiful structurally as well. So I think there's something in the surrounding kind of geography that maybe influences to a degree, and then certainly for the north of England as well, where predominantly there's a disparity of kind of wealth between the mill owners and the business owners and those who work there in these northern towns, that you can have people live in some quite hard lives in the past, and then a lot of the folk music that comes from there is tales of hardship of working from young ages and losing limb and family member and things like that. And then as the folk music goes through generation to generation, there's certain facets of that transfer into the next generation, I kind of guess. And so that's why then the sounds that were coming out of Birmingham, again, big industrial city, there's maybe some degree of a connection in other northern areas. So I think a combination of kind of landscape and history are all things that can help influence where we're at right now. I mean, maybe if we had more sunshine, beautiful beaches and things, then geographically that might influence the sound kind of somewhat, or slightly different history, socioeconomic factors maybe, but it's something I've not dissected too much in the past, but I think there's some things we can immediately see, and some of the older artwork from the area can paint quite a picture of like the countryside being choked by black smoke from satanic mills and workhouses and things.
Yeah, man. And all of those things you just mentioned, it just kind of create an aura of melancholia, nostalgia, because every time I hear in specifically doom metal album that comes from the UK, whether it is England, Scotland, Wales, it doesn't matter. It kind of transport me to those landscape, because I just need to close my eyes and I'm there. And that's a factor that I can always find in the UK music, especially in the doom metal scene. And that's just magical.
Well, like Whitby is very close to where we live, here. And of course, that particular area served as the kind of the inspiration for, Bram Stoker writing Dracula. And there's, so much, reflected kind of from there too. So hence a lot of Gothic scene, a lot of things, again, all drawing to a, particular kind of darkness that just seems to come very naturally around.
Yeah, so, it feels so natural for you, man.
I was just thinking that how, I tried my hand towards kind of, writing some, different styles of music in the past, and sometimes could feel like, if I was to write what would be like, a straight death metal song or something, and I could certainly have a good bit of a stab at it, but somehow it just kind of feel like I was writing to order, whereas if I'm just left to kind of write what I would just most naturally find myself doing, is more so falling back to, as I say, this kind of initial template and sound.
Yeah, man. And all of that shows in every aspect of your work.
Thank you.
And the next question is, with Distortions, you hit a whole new level regarding composition complexity, and that makes the contrast of the album be more elegant and vivid. Are you planning on following the same evolutionary path for Projections, the third and final album of the trilogy?
So specifically with Projections, and wanting to, continue moving the, ambitious and, dare I say, experimental nature here. Whereas a lot of the bulk of the music up to this point has been written from the guitar outwards. We'd quite like to experiment with bringing in some different sounds and influence into what we do, and it would still be rooted in that same kind of format of the, the doom metal band and sound, but maybe bring in some slightly different kind of sounds and influence, and thinking that, if Reflections was kind of looking towards a celebration of the past and, dark music of before, Distortions, we've tried to, really embellish it and evolve and, create the sound to be, a bit more orchestrated in scope and tone. Then now Projections wanted to see what else we can bring in to this as well, and that could be using kind of different scales and structures, and maybe having some stuff that is maybe a bit more kind of major key to have a real contrast between the darkness, the minor, and or something that almost sounds quite, I don't know, inspiring potentially. We've been playing around with some ideas already, and the key thing of starting the process right now means that it will allow us time to experiment greater, try different approaches to certain songs and sounds, and just allow the songs to have chance to kind of really develop and settle into what they could be. So I really want to just kind of try and cast the net a bit wider for what we do in the future, and we'll see, but that's certainly the intention. We could yet try some of these things and incorporate a small amount of it and find ourselves back to what we are most comfortable with, but we just feel particularly inspired at the moment and very keen to continue.
Yeah, man, because it certainly feels like a journey, as you said. And with the first album, we I can find some of the inspiration and some sounds that it's rooted in your previous works with and other bands, and just like you took all the good stuff and all the experience and all the inspiration that you had in back in those days, and just have it in your new work, but with a new sound, with a new seal, if you wanted to phrase it like that. And but adding
Yeah,
adding so much more and more new and more your stuff, your thing.
yeah, and I hope because we feel very inspired to continue doing what we're doing. We don't want to feel like we're doing a retread of what we've done before. We feel that we are an ongoing creative force, and so I am excited by the idea of seeing where we go next and looking to the future. While still having a loving respect for the past, but yeah, looking forward to continue with this music.
Yeah, those are just the foundations for the future, and I get to say, man, the future with this kind of album looks very, very promising and bright too, or dark.
I hope so. Yeah, well, both. I mean, in order to have darkness, you need light to cast a shadow.
Yeah, man, totally, totally, very, very true, man. And I got one more question for you, Hamish, if you don't mind, before we get to you asking the question for my next guest. And the question is, when I was merely a toddler, an uncle of mine showed me heavy music with albums from Kiss, Iron Maiden, Ted Nugent, Queen, etc. And from then, I have never looked back. Who was the person who introduced you to heavy music? Who was your guru?
Well, that would be my father, and in some ways, it wasn't even necessarily the heavy music from the outset. He loves a lot of English folk music, and so things like Pentangle, Steel I Span, Fairport Convention, Richard Thompson. Now, Richard Thompson has written a lot of very melancholic, very sad songs in that kind of format, based from acoustic guitar and his voice, which has got a very melancholic tone to it as well. So I would hear these songs, and whilst they weren't sonically heavy, they felt heavy in terms of emotion, and I was very much drawn towards that, and also the British blues rock band Free as well, which again my dad would play a lot of. And there's the big songs that everyone seems to know, like All Right Now and Wishing Well, but there's a side to that band as well that was also Morning Sad Morning and Heavy Load, and these songs that were slower, more contemplative. And Paul Kossoff's guitar playing was all centered around feel and emotion, and so I was very much drawn to that too. And then because of them, this interest, and then discovering Iron Maiden from seeing album covers in record shops. Then my dad would get stuff from the library to check out, and then it was him who gave me the Black Sabbath album. So I was very fortunate to have his influence, and also the fact that he's a guitarist as well meant that there were guitars in the house. So when I wanted to start trying to play, so when I wanted to start trying to play, then I was able to have guitars that I could immediately start borrowing and picking up and playing, as long as I was careful with them. And he still plays to this day. So he's great, and I'm very lucky to have had that influence in my life.
Yeah, man, lucky you, because not all of the people have parents who encourage this kind of passion and a career on music. And that's very very lucky for you. I wish I had a family, a parent who encouraged me to pursue a career in music. I mean, they never told me that I was going to fail in music or something like that, but certainly they didn't encourage me. But having a person so close to you that is telling you, you can do it. Look, is this, look at this. This is how it's done. This is what you can achieve if you follow this path. It must be a very, very, very helpful.
Yeah, very much so. And yeah, influence of family, and I know I'm very lucky to have the family that I've got. So you know, I'm always very thankful for that.
Yeah, man, that's great, and that's very beautiful. Hamish, those are the questions I had for you. Thanks a lot for helping me to answer them. And as we were speaking before the interview, what question would you like to ask to the next guest on Conversations from the Underground here in El Hater?
Wow. Okay. What album or band would you like to be able to hear for the first time once again? To experience that first excitement of a particular band or album, what would you like to listen to for the first time again?
Yeah, great question. And what will be your answer?
So you know, I'm gonna go with To Live Is To Die by Metallica. Specifically that song of Justice for All, and for the reason being that the Justice for All album is very harsh, it's very cold, it's a dark, cold, you know, nasty album in some ways. That song, you know, coming towards the end of the album, you know, instrumental for, you know, so much of it, and then when it stops and there's the clean guitar, you get the guitar swells that almost sound like violins, the drums come back in, and then there's a lead, the multi layers of harmonies. And I think that was the first time I really thought about and appreciated layering guitar after guitar after guitar, having multiple harmonies, chords underneath, but yet there's so many guitar tracks going on at that point. And yeah, just getting chills up and down my spine and just thinking, God, I would love to be able to create something like that. And then that was ultimately my kind of love and inspiration to then want to do something like on the song Follow Me, where, you know, there's you know, multiple guitar harmonies going on. There's probably, you know, 4-part harmonies going on all at the same time. And so yeah, I think To Live Is To Die from Metallica, that was a very special moment of me going, wow, you know, this band who I was loving, you know, thrashing and being really heavy, creating an orchestral sounding beautiful piece of music, but with the format of guitar and drums and a tiny bit of bass.
Just a little, just to spice things up.
Yeah.
Great, Hamish. So, Hamish, thanks again for your time, for being so open to talk to me and to answer my questions. I hope this helped to people in Latin American countries to realize that all you have to do is believe in yourself. We are just people who are trying to do what we like the most, and it just takes time, patience, and a lot of heart. And your work with Godthrymm and all of your previous work, it just shows that you have a lot of heart and a lot of talent. And I thank you for creating such great music in the years you have been on the road.
Thank you so very much. Absolutely. Be true to yourself, true to your art, and then hopefully get to make connections with people across the globe. And it's you know, a very special feeling. So thank you so very much.
Thank you, Hamish. Haters, eso es lo que tenemos aquí en nuestra entrevista con el gran Hamish Glencross de la banda ahora Godthrymm. Espero que les haya gustado. Si fue así, no olviden apoyarnos con su like y chequen el trabajo de la banda, compren el material de sus fuentes oficiales, tanto de la banda como del sello que es Profound Lord Records. Nos estamos viendo en la siguiente entrevista o en el siguiente video. Por favor, cuídense mucho. Hasta luego.
Luego.